Hello, Nation. Today we're going to talk about exercise, not for the extreme athlete like myself, but for the general person out there just trying to stay in shape, keep their heart going. Now, with me is my good friend and colleague, Schafer Boeder, who is on faculty at UCSD, and is going to give us some really important tips. Now, the first thing we're not going to waste time on is why is exercise so important? I've seen that at every boring diabetes lecture I've ever seen on exercise. If you don't know why exercise is important, get out your McCallum and just turn off your television or your computer right now. Schafer, let's start off with some basics. Everyone asks, how long should people exercise?
Yeah. Well, the real answer is some exercise is better than no exercise. So if you're starting from scratch, from zero, get out and do something. So, and we're not necessarily talking about exercise where you're running a marathon, but it's physical activity.
Yeah.
But that being said, the American Diabetes Association, which we pay attention to, they do a lot of good work. They recommend that most adults with diabetes and without get 150 minutes of exercise a week. So the trick to that is you can't do it all in one day, but you have to kind of spread it out throughout the week. So if you're getting about 150 minutes spread over the week at least 3 different days, but ideally about every other day, then you're doing pretty well.
So ideally, every other day sounds good. I've heard that also works pretty well. So does it matter what kind of exercise? I mean, should it be lifting weights, getting your heart going, or a combination?
Yeah, again, exercise is good no matter what you're doing. They've even found that just doing some physical activity, as in getting off your butt literally, is good for you. So if you're
wow.
Yeah.
His first time on the show, and he's already getting pretty wild.
I learned from the best. Well, people like us, even doctors, we spend a lot of time sitting in front of computers, and that's one of the things that is bad for you. So it actually shortens your lifespan. So just getting up, literally standing, walking around, is a good start.
We're going to talk about getting low during exercise in a second.
But outside of that, again, you want to get a variety of types of exercise. So resistance exercise, which you mentioned, things like lifting weights, you can use these exercise bands. A lot of different types of exercise classes will have a resistance component. That's important. So trying to get some resistance exercise helps you build muscle and protect your bone strength. And for older folks, and really for everybody, but especially as we get older, we want to make sure we're maintaining our flexibility and our balance. So things like yoga and Tai Chi are really good exercises for that. But anything that gets your heart rate up is good for the heart.
Yeah, and I also heard the older you get, the more muscle mass you lose. So you got to work a little harder. And I always say the best exercise is the one you can do consistently over the long term. Can't just join the gym for the first 3 weeks and then never go again.
Right.
Now, before you guys go out and run a marathon, there are some safety tips. Of course, there's hypoglycemia, but then there's other like underlying heart disease. I know you talk about that.
Yeah, well, you mentioned hypoglycemia. Of course, that's something we always have to talk about in diabetes, especially so anyone who's on insulin. So that's all type 1s, of course, and that's the whole issue. So if you're type 1, you got to pay special attention to your blood sugars. Always check your blood sugar before you exercise. And people with type 1 are very familiar with that.
Be careful when you bolus, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But sometimes we forget about people with type 2 diabetes. So if they're on insulin or if they're on like medications like the sulfonylureas, those can cause low blood sugars too. Things like glipizide, glyburide, those medicines. So anybody who has had a low blood sugar who is at risk for it needs to think about those before exercising. Maybe reduce their medication doses, maybe take some extra carbohydrates. And then you mentioned things like heart disease and those sorts of things. Well, it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor before you start exercising or before you bump up the intensity of your exercise for those reasons.
Yeah, especially if you've been a couch potato for the last 10 years. You get totally inspired by both of us, especially Schafer. Don't go out and overdo it the first day.
Yeah,
that's very important. Now, let's finish up. There's really basic tips. There's no magic to this. What do you recommend to people to help them stay on a schedule? Do you use phone apps?
Well,
I know you brought your Fitbit.
I did. So yeah, this is my Fitbit. It's kind of the old school one. It's a calendar, and this is what I use most of the time. I literally
and it really works.
It works for me because I put this up on my refrigerator, which I go to all the time. To get my healthy snack, and every time that I exercise, I literally just put a mark on this, so I can see this every day. It's a little reminder. If I haven't exercised, it motivates me to do that. And if I can get my goal, which is 4 or 5 times a week, then I'm happy and I can kind of keep track of what I'm doing and congratulate myself. If I get behind, I don't get down on myself. but it motivates me to figure out how I can get back to that goal the next week.
Yeah, you do all 150 minutes on Sunday, you're good for the whole week. I know you're not supposed to do that. And the other thing is, I'm not a big app guy. Yeah, I know how to use things like that, but everybody that has an iPhone, and I think they have them for Androids too,
They do.
there's an app called Health. It's a little white app with a heart. And you click on it, and it keeps track of, today I've walked 3,325 steps. I'm far away from the 10,000 steps a day, but I've been sitting around just walking from hospital to hospital. So I think writing yourself a goal and your own personal goal, check it off, and then you feel like you accomplished something.
And the best, most important thing to think about, as you mentioned, is finding something that you enjoy so that you can make it part of your life. You have to make it a habit. So keeping track of it, whether it's with a calendar or an app, and a lot of free apps are available, you don't have to pay for these, is a good way to do it.
Yeah. Hey, it's time for our Pilates class.
Oh, we got to get going.
So long, nation.
Thanks, guys.